interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hotep, I am, some call me Heru, your modern monthly cannabis fitness strategist. Back at it again, here for you, here with you. Time to tune in, tune up. Once again, I got a special guest on this episode number 75, Green Hands of Aloha, with my brother Carlos. And I just want to give you a shout out before we get deep and dive within this particular program. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. Thank you for all your comments and whatnot. You're negative and positive. I love you haters too. So we gonna jump right into it. What's good with you, Carlos? How you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling great. I can't complain, you know. I'm in Hawaii, loving it. Can't complain.
Yes, sir. So what has been, let's start this out right. What has been the latest new bill with the cannabis industry or the marijuana industry? How you looking at it?
Oh, right on. Yeah, so, well, basically that's what Green Hands of Aloha is all about. It's about, you know, educating people on growing cannabis, and it's been like, you know, growing medical cannabis, because here in Hawaii, you know, we have medical marijuana or cannabis, but we don't have recreational.
Gotcha.
They're working on that, you know, so I've kind of been, you know, here for a while, just, you know, teaching people on, you know, how to garden in an organic way, you know, and for me, it's always been, you know, organics is the only way to garden, whether it's cannabis or something you're going to eat, it doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
You know.
Gotcha.
But yeah, man. I mean, you know, like the latest thing that's been happening in the, you know, cannabis, you know, industry and say like, you know, the movement, I guess, is like the latest thing was on, I think it was last Friday, November the 4th, day after election, the House got together and they actually passed a bill that will end the federal prohibition and decriminalization of cannabis, and changing the scheduling from, you know, other controlled substance, you know, Schedule 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of, you know,
on point. Yeah, that's on point right there.
It's kind of like the latest thing, you know, that's going to be good for, you know, all those who, you know, have been fighting for a long time to have, you know, cannabis, you know, accepted and, you know, accessible to everybody who wants to enjoy the beauty of the plant.
Indeed. And that's what it is. It does give you that. It gives you that experience for sure. Yeah. And that's another thing, even with the decriminalizing, demonizing, you know what I'm saying? The whole process, and that's where it needs to go. Because I mean, I think it's kind of like the fitness industry too, to an extent, when you really put it in perspective. It's something that's helping people getting their life back, even with the process of being a more social, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Social kind of, we open up, we're utilizing our thinking, starting, you know, the coming together. That's why I think they kind of been hesitating with the social distancing. You kind of see what I'm saying? Because that's what I think a lot of the cannabis does. Well, part of it's fruit per se. So what kind of got you into this? You know?
Well, actually, you know, what got me into it is I've always had the passion for the plant. You know, I've always been fascinated by, you know, the plant, how it grows, and then, you know, how it can, you know, how it actually brings joy to everybody.
Big time.
Whether it's recreational, but now, you know, people have come to realize is that it's not just recreational. There's also some good medicinal, you know, properties as well. And, you know, that kind of got me, you know, interested in wanting to, because I've been growing it for a long time, you know, doing my own trial and error, you know, starting like everybody else and, you know, making all the mistakes, you know, and then you kind of learn along the way, you know, what works for you, you know. So, like, I kind of, you know, latched on to growing cannabis in an organic way, and for me, that's the only way to grow cannabis. You know, there's a, you know, a lot of different things in bottles that, you know, are sold throughout the industry. You know, different nutrient lines. You know, basically all the same thing, different applications. But some might differ a little bit from the others. But the thing is that what I find is that it's man trying to mimic nature.
Got you.
You know, so like for me, you know, nature has all the answers. It's just that you would have to learn how to apply them.
Tap into.
So at the time, It was like in Hawaii we had access. I mean, we didn't have any access. It was like when Hawaii first voted in medical marijuana in 1999, I think it was.
Okay.
They were actually right after California. California was the first, and it was a referendum by the people. But here in Hawaii, when they create a law, it's through the legislation process.
Okay.
So for us here in Hawaii, we were the first legislature that got together and enacted a medical marijuana law.
Nice.
But they kind of fell short. They were progressive in thinking and let's get on this and enact it, but they fell short on creating the access.
Okay.
So at the time, before I started the business here in Hawaii, you could have the right as a medical patient to possess it. You had the right to grow it, and you had the right to use it, but there was no way for you to get it.
Oh, gotcha.
It had to fall out the sky, magically, a seed would fall out the sky and start growing in your yard, and now you had your plant. So, so for me, it's like I, felt that I had something to offer. So that's when I started the business and started educating people on how to grow their medical cannabis.
Nice.
And then once again, I just started more towards the organics.
Yeah, see, you got a lot to offer here too. I mean, specifically like focused in particular organic lines.
Well, it's true. I do have a few things here on the shelves, but not like some places that are big, huge warehouses. A lot of things, a lot of things for you to buy, and they want to sell everything in a bottle.
Yes.
But for me, I've always taken a different approach, and I want to teach people how to do what's called build a living soil. And like, for me, it's like, when you're growing not just cannabis, any plant, it's about growing it organically. And one of the key components of growing anything organically is what's called your microbial life.
Okay.
Which is your beneficial fungus and bacteria. Once you have that into your soil along with your NPKs, which is your nitrogen and phosphorus potassium, like a lot of times you might go into the store, you might see a bottle of plant food, and there's 3 numbers on it.
Yes.
So those 3 numbers is the guaranteed analysis of how much of a percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that's available in that bottle for the plant, right?
Okay.
So the thing with that is that, so you have your beneficial microorganisms, you have your NPKs, and then you also have what's called your trace minerals. So the trace minerals is actually things from both the earth and the ocean.
Okay.
And so like for instance, from the earth you have trace minerals from glacier rock. You have also trace minerals from volcanic ash. And then also from the ocean you have kelp.
Okay.
Which is trace minerals. Because like the kelp actually sits at the bottom of the ocean and filters the ocean and collects all of this stuff, and we as man harvests it, and when you harvest it and leach out all the salts and dry it, you can actually use it as a good amendment.
Okay.
And then with that, now you have a complete way of growing a great cannabis plant, or once again, your food that you eat. Doesn't matter. Once you have the right components to a soil, everything grows. It grows fantastic.
So you said trace minerals was the 3rd component. Can you say the 3 again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you need the fungus and the bacteria, which is your bacillic bacteria, and then which all living things need, by the way, in order to survive and thrive and live. For us humans, we actually have it in our digestive tract. To break down the food that we eat and help on the digestion. Well, all living things uses that bacillic bacteria, and even plants use it also. And how it works with the plants is actually it's got a lot of good ways that it works in sync with the whole thing. Is that one, your bacillic bacteria actually will stimulate your fungus. And your fungus is your mycorrhizans.
Okay.
And that's the fungus. It's like the fungus actually colonizes around the roots and causes the roots to multiply, and it also unlocks the food in the soil so the plant can actually use it.
Okay.
So like we could see, underneath the ground in nature, there would be a web of fungus that they call mycelium that goes from one plant to the next plant, from one tree to the next tree, and then it regulates in nature how much food those plants can eat. So one's not out eating the other, and they can all live in harmony.
Okay. Interesting.
So then the bacteria actually makes the fungus more active and can actually gobble up more food in the soil, make it more available for the plant. And then in turn, the bacteria makes the plant more absorbent, so it can actually take on more food and more water. And then it has an easier process during the photosynthesis process, converting that food to fuel.
Okay.
So the more that good bacteria you can get into your garden, the healthier your garden will be.
Gotcha.
And then once you have that fungus and the bacteria, you have what's called the colony of life. So now you have a living soil. It's alive and everything thrives. And I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Potassium, nitrogen, and phosphorus.
Yeah, the first one, the NPK. So you got nitrogen, then you got phosphorus, and then you got potassium. So like nitrogen actually, grows all the leaves, the branches, or if it's a leafy green, plant you're eating, it's just gonna grow all the leafy green. And then the phosphorus actually helps the blooming process. With the cannabis plant, it kind of helps, in the first month of flowering.
Okay.
It enhances the flowering process. And then the second month of flowering, because the cannabis plant goes through cycles, right?
Okay.
So the second month of flowering is when potash is really important. That potash actually helps form that flower. It helps ripen it. It helps bring out the oils, the terpenes, and all that good stuff that we all love to enjoy. Kind of smelling like a bouquet of roses.
Yes.
Like, oh, it smells so good. I want some of that. But so I was talking about the cannabis plant goes through 3 phases of life. Like the first phase of the life is the veg stage. And what it does is it grows all the leaves, the branches, and it gets tall, it spreads out, it gets wide. And then after that, you have the flowering, which is usually, it can be anywhere from, let's say 8 to 16 weeks, technically, I guess these days you can have something from, 6 weeks to, say, 16 weeks.
Yeah.
One thing about the industry is that there's been a lot of breeding, of seeds and,
crossbreeding and all that other stuff.
it goes on and on.
Yeah.
But there's always been like indica, sativa, now there's the hybrids, and now there's the autoflowers. And the hemp plant, let's not forget that, because these days, people want that too.
Yeah.
In the old days, hemp, who wanted that? Make some root. Now you can make some CBD, and you can feel all good.
Feel that ecstasy type of feeling.
And it helps people, pain. It can actually helps lower blood pressure. I've seen that happen. It's actually also, the CBD is really good along with THC for curing cancer. Pretty much they both lock arms and go in and destroy the molecules, So back to the cycles of the plant life. So whenever that plant receives over 12 hours of light, it'll stay in the veg stage. And then once it receives 12 hours or less, then it goes to the next phase of its life, which is the flowering phase. And then once again, with the genetics on the market today, you look, it can be 6, weeks to 8 weeks for indicas. For a sativa, it can be, like 9 to 16 weeks. I had this one friend group of mine, is like, when is it ever going to stop? It just kept going. But it turned out pretty good. So, that's just kind of like, a little bit about growing cannabis, but then also, just growing your regular vegetables too. It's like, if you really create that living soil.
Yeah, that sounds interesting anyway. How many components? Well, just those components, and you actually supply that, huh? All those components?
Yeah, man, I do, but it's like, whenever you do organics, it's so vast, because with organics, it's all about, decompositioning of say, food or green matter or something like that when you compost,
Okay.
That's really important. But as far as the amendments, a lot of the amendments that people will use to build these soils
Okay.
are things like bone meal granulated potash, trace minerals, which is azomite or glacier rock dust. The azomite is actually the volcanic, say, dust, if you want to call it. And then the glacier rock dust is from the glaciers, so that's the trace minerals. Then there's kelp, and there's crab meal, there's oyster shell flour, there's cottonseed meal, there's neem meal, there's rice hull, what else? There's tons. I can't even think of everything right now.
No, I know it's plenty of
But those
approach, yeah, because it kind of remind me of even what grow method would you recommend? Because a lot of people are aquaponics, yada, yada, yada. Okay, this stuff, they're doing it even with the coconut? Was it the coconut? Yeah, something like that. They was using it, and maybe I'm outdated too, but I know it's a lot of, people out there doing it. The ones I have seen very successful has been just straight soil, old school.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I always say, best way to grow cannabis is whatever's going to work for you.
Yeah.
I always say, too, there's no one right way to grow it.
Yeah.
It's your way, but I think my way is the right way. Because, I'm all about the organics.
Gotcha.
For me, the organics bring out more of a terpene profile, more of that smell, more of that flavor. It's a way that you can recycle your soil.
To keep it
going.
Okay.
You actually, in the long run, is more cost efficient. But yeah, there's hydro. There's some people trying to do it. With aquaponics too.
Oh, yeah.
For me, with hydro, it's gonna grow a beautiful flower. As they say, oh, it's so sexy. It looks good, smells good, and it'll give you some sort of an effect. But for me, it loses the terpene profile.
Okay.
It loses the flavor, It loses the smells and
because it's just amazing, even like when you think about that, how they're able to, not the red eyes and, all that, the old school stuff that we experienced when it came to, you're a cannabis smoker. Because I used to have, shout out to my brother, you know who you are, Brother Nas, he used to, he smoked, right? But it was funny because he always wore his glasses. And I was thinking, then I started getting into it and I was like, okay, I see why he wears the glasses now. Even though now it's not, your eyes are not all bloodshot red, looking all crazy like people do. And the highs are different too. I think the highs are totally instrumented. Don't take me wrong, if you kind of have that type of, I guess, personality or something, it kind of puts you but then if you kind of you're more sharp or more aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, I agree with you. It all affects you differently. And some people feel, sativas work for me, indicas work for me. Some people, indicas, it's too much, it knocks me out. Sativas, no, I can't go to bed or whatever. But I feel maybe because there's no research on it, you gotta do your own research and development.
Big time.
Whatever works for you, right? When you're using it. Some of it gets you up, some of it gets you down. Some of it mellows you out. Some of it might even freak you out. I'm so paranoid. But those are usually the beginners.
You're right. Yeah, because you're lacking your water, you're lacking certain things that you should be on top of. Because like I was talking to you before about the setting, it's always the setting gotta have some kind of positive, energy to it. That's just something I've been kind of observing over the years and seeing things. Because all my experiences have been good, even when I was super, hey, you know what I'm saying? Because I tried the dab, and I don't know if I talked to them about that, but I did the dab for the first time, and man, I was walking on clouds, literally. I didn't know, that was my first experience. This was 2014. This guy come with a bomb or a dabbing machine and talking about putting it in the electric outlet. I'm thinking, what is he talking about? Right? But no, but that's just some of the things that I've kind of been interested in. This is another question too. How many times are you actually visiting those plants? That's another, because time is important. That's another thing I think why people are coming up with these so-called faster methods, but not really getting good quality.
Well, I get you there, and the thing is that farming is work. Growing cannabis or vegetables or anything, it's work.
Gotcha.
So if you're not willing to put in the work, you're not really gonna get, I feel, the best product out of it. And I feel, like these days there's automatic feeding systems, and everything is, just all high tech, which is cool for those people who are running massive grows and they're trying to do it commercially because their bottom line is all about profit. Pushing it out, profit, But then there's I feel those connoisseurs and people with passion who's going to take their time, do it the old way, with nature, and they're going to come out with a great, I feel, a better product.
Okay.
But yeah, so it just depends on I guess how much work you want to put in it. As far as it's going to be the best method of growing it.
Okay.
And then by nature, people are lazy by nature. They all want the outcome. Sometimes they don't want to put the work in.
Everybody can't be LeBron.
There you go.
Michael Jordan. I know. It's crazy, but we really do think like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We really do think like that. And I never understood it, even like being, because I think what this particular process, like growing anyway, it really takes a patience, right?
That's right. Watch the grass.
Yeah, exactly. And I commend you brothers and sisters who be into that, because it's amazing process, especially when you're seeing the fruit bearing, you know what I'm saying, and you're able to harvest it and stuff like that.
Right.
I have witnessed to some of that myself.
Okay.
But at the same time, it actually makes things, because you can use the same principles with life too, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and that's what we're kind of talking about here on the show. How you kind of bridge some gaps together, because I'm sure it has been, I'm sure you've met a whole bunch of people that came up in here, probably even some celebrities, huh?
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure. I've met a few, and actually Chris Brown came here once.
Straight up.
Yeah.
See, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, being in Hawaii, hands down, the weather is all day beautiful.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The only weather I think who can keep up with this is San Diego. That's about,
Yeah, maybe. Well, but I was a Marine in San Diego, and sometimes there was hot days of 100 degrees, and we couldn't even exercise.
That's super hot.
It was scorching desert hot.
Yeah.
But now Hawaii has a certain harmony of perfect weather, I'd say.
Yeah. I agree. Just witnessing the time I have been here has just been gorgeous. Gorgeous. I don't even complain. But at the same time, and I'm sure that's good for the veggies too, huh? How'd that work?
Well, it's amazing, actually. I do this super soil mix for growing cannabis, and it's got everything in it that I mentioned. All the NPKs, and it's got the trace minerals and the fungus. And then there's a few times when some of my customers came and purchased it, and then their wives used it for the vegetable garden.
Oh, nice.
They were growing cannabis, and the wife's like, let me check it out, for the vegetable garden. And then they've come back and bought more and says, now I have to buy it for my wife too, because he says, we've never had bigger cucumbers than we've had. We've never had a healthier garden than we've had. Because they used to use stuff like Miracle Grow. And Miracle Grow is the worst thing that anybody can use. You shouldn't even use that for your grass. That's how bad it is.
Wow.
And the reason being is because it's a salt-based product.
Gotcha.
It's actually made by a petroleum company. But the thing is that when you have heavy salts and you're feeding that to your plants, what's happening is that you're killing all the microbial life from the amount of salts that builds up into the soil.
Okay.
And over time, it deadens the soil. It kills it, right? So then you start wondering, why my plants aren't growing? I thought it was a miracle.
Yes, indeed.
But then when they find out, doing the organics and, they see the results, it's like now they're like a believer,
makes sense. That definitely makes it make a lot of sense. Especially, like I said, especially being out here, just sun all day, pretty much every day, predominantly. And I'm just, have you had people grow outside? Have you got someone growing their cannabis?
Yeah, actually here in Hawaii, the majority of the people are outside growers.
Okay.
Because, unlike, a lot of places in stateside, or we say the mainland here in Hawaii, it's like the cost of electricity is much cheaper, Here in Hawaii, our power is much more expensive.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we got to deal with two of the hardest things in growing cannabis: heat and humidity. That can kill you.
Yeah,
Heat and humidity will kill you. People growing in the mainland, when it comes towards the fall of the year, because people are harvesting around like October, November. Well, then it's like the temperatures are much cooler during the flowering time, so the flowers are much more happier.
Got you.
Here in Hawaii, because of the heat, it's a battle where you gotta keep them where the heat
somewhat cool. Yeah.
So a lot of people do like kind of a little shade covering.
Okay.
I even know some people that make greenhouses that actually have fans blowing
Nice.
through it. Nice. Yeah. And then also like growing it outside here, a lot of people do it, but here in Hawaii you can actually grow it quote unquote year round.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one advantage we have here versus stateside, because they just have a season. Here in Hawaii we actually have two seasons. We have what's called long season and short season.
Okay.
So like long season is through the summer months, and the plants tend to grow longer and taller. And then during the fall and winter months, we have shorter plants.
Okay.
And they tend to do pretty happy during that time because there's less of that heat.
I got you. Yeah, because I noticed the difference. It's been 80 recently. I mean, even though we were seeing 88 early in the summertime, roughly around 88. Even though we was kind of locked down too, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I definitely was getting some sun. I was walking out to Waikiki during the whole lockdown.
Yeah, had to get that exercise.
Yeah, and just seeing barely a few people out there, but I mean it was hot. It was definitely hot out there.
I know, that's been real
weird. Definitely hot. Yeah. So, and they was telling me it supposed to be more rainy season, but it hasn't been as bad as everybody would been saying. Yeah, because they was saying October 31st we start seeing a rainy season, but it hasn't really been that bad. My opinion.
No, yeah, it's true. Because actually, like June through December is actually our hurricane season here.
Okay.
So it tend to be more, rains and big rains. But yeah, it's been kind of mellow this year.
Yeah, it's been mellow. Yeah. So what has been the biggest plant you grown? Tallest plant?
Biggest plant. Actually, I'm not so much, in my situation, because I'm an indoor grower.
Gotcha.
I'm one of those that pay that electricity. I wish I had solar. But for me, it's worth the research and development.
Gotcha.
And not to mention, I get to reap the rewards from my fruits of labor.
No doubt.
So yeah, not so much for me. The biggest plant for me is about the quality of the plant.
Gotcha.
Because whenever you grow a plant, outside, sure you can grow a big, huge plant. Especially if you're in the mainland, longer days in the summer. Whereas like here in Hawaii, we have shorter days in the summer. We actually have 13 hours of light.
Wow.
During the summer months. And then year round, other than that, we have 12 hours.
Okay.
So with that, the cannabis plant, when it's growing, whenever it receives over 12 hours of light, it stays in the veg. Whenever it receives 12 hours or less, it goes to the next phase of its life, which is the flowering phase. So here in Hawaii, that's why, when we have the two seasons, we have 12 hours year round, except the summer months, pretty much about the third week of May through pretty much about the end of September. And then the days start to shorten. But those are the only time that you can technically grow a bigger plant outside in Hawaii. But then, people have ways of manipulating that. Some people will stretch it inside, get it how tall you want, just throw it outside and let it finish off because you have a 12-12.
Oh, got you. Okay, that's interesting.
So anyway, big plant, So, I'm an indoor grower, and I have a height restriction with my ceiling.
Yes.
So pretty much, I'd be more like a sea of green, what they call, where you grow, smaller plants, but more of them.
Gotcha.
And generally, my plants end up being about 3 feet tall.
Okay.
With that, because like the cannabis plant pretty much grows about a foot per month. Then once they enter the second stage of the life cycle, which is flowering phase, it usually will stretch and double in size.
Okay.
So usually like a good rule of thumb, if you're an indoor grower, grow that plant about 12 inches. It seems small, only a foot, and then you throw it into the flowering process. By the time you're done, you're going to end up with about a 3-foot tall plant.
Gotcha. That produces what? How many? About a pound, 2 pounds? What?
Well, it all depends on the numbers of the plants, the size of the pot.
Gotcha.
The quality of your atmosphere. I mean, there's so many, things that go into the final, outcome.
Okay.
But on average, usually I do more like a sea of green. I grow 9 plants in a 4x4 space.
Okay.
In 5-gallon pots. And I use LED lights, and generally I'll do like 1.5 pounds.
Okay.
Which is, really right on target. It's pretty good. There's, people who, swear by, using Gavito lights, and they'll get, 3 or 4 pounds a plant. It's like, it depends on genetics. And it's possible to get, a couple pounds per light, which is what, really the target where you want. That's where you want to be, And it is possible. But a lot of times you might have to, bash that plant a little bit longer to get it a little bit bigger, so you can get that kind of a harvest. Yeah, because it's all about how long it's gonna veg, what size pot it's in.
Let's stay on that. A lot of these growers are on that restriction too. Like restriction to get the product done. Because one of the things we've been noticing, even like back in Colorado, we be hunting. Cannabis hunting, then all of a sudden we find a good strain, then all of a sudden they don't have the strain no more. It's like they, you know what I'm saying? It's like they're done with it, and this was like the biggest strain, like the biggest seller. I'm thinking, well, any logic would tell you stick with that. So I noticed that's
well, I mean, I kind of agree with you there too. Like, same respect too. Sometimes people get tired of it. Some people are like, I've just been smoking this, I'm immune to it. Well, I don't know about that. But you might be looking for something different. I mean, me personally, I don't like to get stuck on growing the same thing over and over and over because, for me, there's a lot of different varieties, there's a lot of different strands, and I want to try them all.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, see what they do, how they feel. Like the cookie series. I mean, I know that was a big craze for a minute. You don't hear too much of that.
No, actually, I mean, they're still going strong. I think the latest one is called Runts. And that was like one of the most desirable strands right now.
Straight up. Wow.
I know in California, I don't know what's going on in Colorado or any other place. Or like Oklahoma, man, I can't believe what's going on in Oklahoma.
That's crazy.
It's like, they're going off of all places. Before it was like, if you had a joint, they would arrest you and Oklahoma and throw you in jail. Now they're one of the mega cannabis producers.
What?
Yeah, dude, Oklahoma, man.
I gotta look at that. I just had a friend move out there. Shout out to you, bro.
You should check it out, dude. It's unbelievable. Like
Oklahoma.
They came in and just changed the game, meaning that, they made it actually kind of fair. And what I mean by that is that, like, for an example, here in Hawaii, we don't have recreational cannabis. We have medical. And it took, I think, 13 years, I think it was, before they created access, right? So now we have now we have dispensaries, right?
That's right.
But when they first started for the dispensary, it's like, they only opened it up if you had money. It was only for the millionaires.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't fair. It wasn't open, it wasn't an open industry for everybody to have the opportunity, the equal opportunity, right?
Gotcha.
So they had it to where here in Hawaii, the first round, they set it up that, first of all, you had to have $1.2 million in order to put your application in.
What?
Yeah. The application fee was $5,000. That was non-refundable.
What?
And then
Gangsters.
it was ridiculous.
That's gangster.
So then there was like, I think 13 groups of people that got together and says, hey, we got $1.2 million, we want to put our application in. But they only chose 8 for the whole state.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
Yeah, so it was like here in Oahu, there was only 3 dispensaries, you know, and this is the big metropolitan island.
Wow. Yeah.
There was like 2 on the Big Island, 2 on Maui, 1 on Kauai, none on Molokai. Like they're left to defend for themselves, you know. But they just pretty much grow it, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't fair, you know. But so Oklahoma came in, and they're like, okay, $2,500, you can get a grower's license, a dispensary's license, a processing license.
Damn, all
For
three.
$2,500. No, you can't get all 3. But
Each one of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
each one of them.
Oh, that's
$2,500.
nice. Yeah.
It's affordable.
Yeah.
To give everybody the opportunity to, you know, be able to come up in the quote unquote the green rush. You know?
Yes, yes.
We had to go rush.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm
Right.
with you.
Now we're in the green rush.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
But to, you know, keep it to where $500, you know, it gives everybody that opportunity. You know, and then I was reading where Oklahoma is giving out like 3,000 licenses.
Wow. Wow.
But only a certain percentage of licenses have actually, you know, created the business or whatever.
Got you.
But, you know, still, giving people that opportunity, you know, is...
Yeah, open forum and just, well, somewhat an open forum, but invitation or
Yeah, there you go.
an
You know,
invitation. Yeah,
just
that
give
makes sense.
everybody the right to earn an income.
Yes.
If that's the passion they have and the direction they want to go, why just make it for the millionaires?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Plus, the millionaires, they're in it. You know, they're in it just for the money. They're not in it for the. That's another story. That's another. Well, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I mean, because some people, you know, it's like people who haven't even done, you know, never even experienced cannabis or any other type of venture like
Sure.
that. Just jump in because they just see the dollar bills. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
There's no passion. you know.
Exactly, and they end up bye-bye. See
Yeah,
ya.
and a lot of them, you know, they don't understand that, you know, it's been a culture for a long time, you know, it's been a war, a waging of a war for a long time for
big
people,
time,
you know,
big time.
who felt that it's a plant and it should be accessible.
So who
You know?
is it? Anybody you kind of follow in this industry? You know, like Cheech and Chong, or you know what I'm saying? Like any of those. I mean, I know Snoop is like. Don't take me wrong. I know Snoop is more like even Dr. Green Thumb from you know you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
What's his name? Nah, I can't even
I
say
mean,
the
you
group.
know, to be honest with you, man, I'm not starstruck.
Okay.
You know, and I'm
Nice.
kind of boring, you know, so. But I mean, if I had to just pick anybody that I've seen, you know, doing some things that I thought was kind of cool or whatever, you know, I'll have to go with the Cookie Man, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
I think he's cool. He's like one of the first ones that's jumped out there and, you know, gonna brand a name for, you know, a cannabis strain, you know. And he's come up with some really, you know, I think great strains, you know, very tasty. He's very passionate about it. And then one thing that I like that's cool, is that he actually teaches people on how to grow it, you know, and how to, you know, even, you know, be in the business, you know. So for me, that's somebody who's not greedy about it. He's trying to share, you know what I mean?
Indeed. Yeah. Yes.
You know, I've always said greed never won the war,
No.
you know. So yeah, you know, so
You end up killing yourself or
or somebody else. Yeah, it's terrible.
Napoleon Bonaparte. No. No, I'm clowning, but yeah, no, that's definitely interesting because I know
Burner,
a lot of this a lot of it has changed too. I noticed some of the iconish, you know, cannabis kind of, I wouldn't say gurus, but people who is kind of forward with their, like another cat that comes to mind, Jack Heru.
Jack Heru.
Yeah, Herrera. You know, comes to mind. You know,
Long live
that
Jack.
type of mentality who was like an advocate of cannabis. You don't really see that, really, the iconish. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking
Well, I
at
mean,
it wrong.
I guess the only one like that these days is like Ed Rosenthal.
Okay.
He's a
Yeah,
busy
yeah, yeah,
guy.
yeah.
He's busy. He's at all the shows. Everybody, he's written many books.
What's his name? D'Angelo? Is that the other one? Steve D'Angelo? He's another one, I think. He wrote the Cannabis Manifesto
Okay.
a couple years back.
Well, fair enough. I can say that. I read it.
Okay. But he's definitely a big. He's the one who's behind the. They got an academy, a cannabis academy out in California, Oakland,
Oh,
and he started that.
No, that's Richard, right? This guy.
As far as I remember, Steve D'Angelo, I think, was the head of it, and then they even did a little.
Are you talking about Amsterdam University?
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Well,
There you
no, I'm sorry about this guy by the name Richard that was in a
What,
wheelchair.
Collective with him or something?
Oh, no, well,
I
he
know
was-
they was both.
Well, I know he was.
Yes.
Richard was. I mean, I don't know. What entity he started the university under, but he was one of the first ones in Oakland that had a dispensary.
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, it was
something
called
like
the
that.
Bulldog. It was on Broadway, was it?
Okay.
I think it
Okay.
might have been Broadway. And actually, he was in it with a good friend of mine, Mark Belote.
Okay.
They actually, those two got together and were the first ones to open up a dispensary in Oakland.
Nice.
And then later years down the road, my friend Mark ventured off and created what was called the Lemon Drop.
Okay. Okay.
And that was in Oakland also. And that was before, they came in and regulated and kind of changed the game for a lot of people. But yeah, Richard, as I remember, is the one who started.
Okay. Okay.
But I
Yeah.
don't know who the other guy is.
Yeah,
His
Steve
name is
D'Angelo. I know. Well, he had something to do with. I know it was something in Oakland. Let me
Okay,
say.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna say, but I know it was something, a big movement during that period of time. Because he
Right.
kind of remind me. He's like a Chong type of, Cheech and Chong when they was making his little
Well,
move.
you remember how it all first started? Who was one of the major guys that started it? It was this guy by the name of Dennis Perot.
Okay.
You ever heard of him?
No, I never heard of him.
Yeah, man, he was like one of the original activists. I remember talking to him, and he told me that he was signing people up, because in California you needed signatures
Yeah.
to get an initiative put on the ballot. So he said he went out and personally signed up 10,000 people.
Wow.
And he was one of the big pushers,
Okay.
activists, and he was also the very first person in California to open up a dispensary. He opened it up, and I think it was the
70s or something?
no. This is like in 96 California.
Oh yeah, 90 something. Yeah.
I think it was 96. But no, he opened up. It was right in. I don't know. It was in the Castro or if it was right above it. I forget where it was.
Oh,
But,
right.
he opened up-
Castle, the
He opened up the first one.
Playhouse.
It was the first one that was opened up.
Okay.
You know?
Nice.
And that's when they just passed. He opened up this dispensary, and I remember I went to California. My friend brought me to it to check it out, and I was blown away. Everybody up there was, smoking. It was all cloudy in it, I mean, these days I don't even think you can, have
yeah,
consumption
you
on
can't.
site.
No, you
Yeah,
cannot.
so it was funny. Like, it was the first one opened up, and everybody was having a good time, and then my friend introduced me to Dennis. He gave me the backstory and everything.
Dennis Pro? What's
Dennis Perot.
Perot? Oh,
Yeah, that's
Perot.
his
Like,
name.
okay.
And it was fun. Like, he told me, the journey, and he was talking all about it, and then I'm like, well, hey, can I get a card? He's like, he gave me this. Well, he says, like, it's California, all this. He goes, why do you want it? I'm like, well, if I am ever in California, I want a place to be able to get it. So it was cool. So like, he gave me a card, and I kind of kept it just for like, it's part of history.
Nice. Yeah.
It was really cool, and I think these days somebody told me that he's got like a bed and breakfast cannabis place.
Okay,
in
yeah,
San
like a
Fran.
lounge kind of scenario.
Or
huh?
something like a big mansion house or something.
Nice.
Where people, like a bed and breakfast. Sort of
Okay,
thing,
yeah, because I had a chance to go to a lounge. They got this lounge out. I forgot the name of the lounge, but basically it was cannabis consumption. You can do all your cannabis there. It was actually pretty cool. Because
That is
the
cool.
gentleman we was talking about doing like a calisthenic tournament in the back.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You get-
High.
you get
it
some
was
energy,
like
yeah.
a 420 or a what was he? like an X Games type of event in the back, because he was an X Game kind of enthusiast. He was he was a surfer. He was a surfer, but he was originally a swimmer. He was a pro Olympic swimmer. He actually swam with Michael Phelps. He was he claimed he was the one who was holding the bong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in that picture, yeah. So he's really cool. As a matter of fact, we keep in touch via
He was the one that actually started it. It wasn't Michael, right?
I know.
It's like that Olympic down here skier that won the medal and then said he had secondhand pot smoke when they found it in his system. You don't remember that?
I think I do remember something like that.
He was like Olympic, he won a medal. I don't know if it was a gold or what, but
that's funny.
They found he had some cannabis in his system. He's like, oh, secondhand smoke. It's like, yeah. So their hand
so
they passed
funny.
it to you.
Exactly. Secondhand smoke. Yeah, you're right. Nah, it's some interesting. What's been some? You got any interesting cannabis stories?
Any interesting cannabis stories? Wow.
Like something just like hilarious.
I do actually. I used to go down to Australia and visit Australia.
Nice.
Actually, and then actually that's the first place I ever started growing cannabis.
Out in Australia.
Out in Australia,
Oh,
because I met an organic grower. He was actually living in this small town called Jellybrand, Australia, right? And it had maybe all of 50 people in the town at the time. I don't know. It could have been 100. I don't know. But for kicks, they used to go and change the jelly bean, make it jelly bean, and make they make it jelly bean. Anyway. So this guy was actually quote unquote in the outback because.
Yeah, that sounds like the outback.
Yeah, because it was like I was in Melbourne, which is the southern metropolitan city.
Okay.
In the territory of Victoria. And then Jellybrand, that's right, it was Jellybrand. They would, for kicks, they would make it Jelly Bean.
Okay.
They would change the sign. Yeah. So Jellybrand, Australia, was like probably about 3.5 hours outside of Melbourne. Right?
Okay.
So at the time I was living there, my friend knew his wife, and we used to go there and pick up, some cannabis, right? So one night we drove out there to pick it up, and we picked it up, and then we were driving back to Melbourne, and then I guess that day or whatever, the cops were trying to bust a marijuana field, and some of the guys shot at them, and then they were looking for the people. So what they were doing is they set up a roadblock on the freeway, or there was a highway, right? So and the thing is that they were looking at people's cars and inspecting it because they were looking for the people who shot at them, or they were looking for the cannabis or what have you. So we had 2 ounces of cannabis inside of the glove compartment, right? The Australians call it the glove box.
The glove box.
Yeah. So we're cruising down the road, and then we come to this roadblock, and we're like, flying
crazy.
to zizzies, right? So then we get there, all the cops, and they're like, hey, we're looking for some individuals or whatever, and they're like, where you been, what you been doing, and then they asked to open up the trunk, and they looked underneath the seats, right?
Oh, man.
And they they were interviewing, asking us what we doing, where we been, and my friend's like, I was at my friend's house for a birthday party. I got my friend from America here, from Hawaii, and then the cops were like, oh, Hawaii, and then they started talking to me, they're kind of excited about it, kind of threw them off, and then, they kind of checked us out, and they said, all right, you can go, right? Nice. So they let us go, and they didn't look in the glove compartment.
Nice.
So, but what was crazy is that night, it was a full moon eclipse, total full moon eclipse, right?
Wow.
That night we were driving there, we had 2 kangaroos jump in front of the car, or driving there. It was like, because kangaroos are almost like deers. If you you can be dead, or your car can be screwed up.
I agree with that.
So it was crazy, man, because 2 of them, It was like, I don't know, it was like mother and baby or whatever, but it was like almost in slow motion, and it seemed like everything just got silent as they hopped in front of the car and away from the car, you know. So 2 kangaroos, full moon night, and then we get about 30 minutes down the road and we hit another roadblock. The same thing. So that's kind of weird, you know. Two roadblock checks, 2 ounces of weed in the glove compartment, and 2 kangaroos on a full moon. Total eclipse night. So I don't know, maybe that's the craziest cannabis story I can share with you.
That's on point right there. That's
but then, like, you know, the second roadblock, we had it down already, you know. Oh, where you guys been? Oh, hey, I got my friends from America.
Really on it, huh?
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
So let me ask you this. So your research, how's that been working? You just been trial and error, or you just been kind of reading some, you know, what are some of the resources maybe, some of the books,
you know,
maybe, I don't know.
Like I said, man, I'm kind of boring, you know, I don't really follow anyone, you know.
Okay.
For me, you know, one, I'm a country boy from Texas, you know, I grew up gardening and you know, that's farming. And then meeting my friend out in Australia, you know, dialed me in onto the organic. So for me, you know, I had a really good sense of organic growing.
Okay.
And I've never really had to research much of it.
Okay.
You know? But one of the things I have learned along the way, because it was something new in the industry that actually, you know, the one thing that's cool about the cannabis industry is that it has developed so many techniques on growing a plant that, you know, has transformed over into, quote unquote, the general population.
Gotcha.
You know, but for a long time, the people who were growing cannabis was up on the microbial life and talking about it and starting to form it and inject it into the process.
Okay.
So for me, you know, I mean, you know, we used to do compost pile and all that stuff like that, but you know, I've learned, you know, through you know, just going to the, you know, different trade shows and things like that, and meeting different people in the industry. You know, I learned about the microbial life. Okay. You know, it's so important. You know, so I learned about the fungi. You know, I knew about fermenting, which bacteria. You know, and actually, you know, I knew about the fermenting and, you know, composting and all that. But still, I wasn't really clear on, you know, what was really happening.
Okay.
So, you know, now I understand that, you know, you're creating that bacillus bacteria, you know. And then you know, learning about the microbes and things like that. So for me, it's always been like just hands-on sort of.
Okay.
You know?
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Eye opener. You know, I have met a few people who kind of do they thing over the time. You know, do they thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, like I said, because I know it's a more of a learning each time you're doing it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's always changing if it's not getting enough air or, you know, whatever the case may be, or it's lacking nitrogen, lacking, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, and then with that, to me, usually it comes when you're using those things in the bottle.
Gotcha.
You know, I always say, you know, the stuff in the bottle is salt formers. It's all salt-based. You know, that's one thing about this industry is like, you have two different type of nutrients. You know, you have quote unquote liquid nutrient, and you got liquid fertilizer. The difference is salts and sugars.
Okay.
You know, nutrients is like pretty much salt based. You know, they're taking salts, they're, you know, infusing the food within the salts, rehydrating it, and you got a liquid nutrient. Reverse for the organics, pretty much you do it with sugars. So salts and sugars determine whether it's synthetic or organic. You know, so with that, you do have some issues with, like, you know, deficiencies with plants. You know, especially, you know, doing the hydroponics, you have deficiencies. Usually the first deficiencies is calcium, iron, and magnesium.
Okay.
So everybody uses CalMag, you know. And then, so I find that, you know, that's when you can kind of run into issues. But when you do the organics, you know, once again, you know, I mean, I'm going to preach that, you know, to the day I die. But but once you know, you have all that organic matter and it's all there, you know, and you have your IMOs, you know, your indigenous microorganisms, just if you do them yourself. That's a whole another topic there. But that's more about like Korean natural farming techniques. Which is all about creating your IMOs, your indigenous microorganisms.
Wow.
You know, which is that fungus and the bacteria, you know. It's like, I do have this one product here in my store. It's called Aloha Organic.
Okay.
And it's actually, I've been like 3 years in the making from Hawaii, from one of my Hawaiian friends who has always, he's pretty young, he's younger than me, but he's been practicing indigenous Hawaiian farming techniques. Yeah, and then also Korean natural farming techniques. So what it is all about fermentation.
Okay.
The more things that you ferment, the better it is for plants. Better it is for people too. Fermented stuff is good for us. It's like kimchi is good. It's fermented. They say Koreans never get sick.
Delicious.
It is delicious. I agree with you there. I was coming from Texas. I didn't know nothing about a kimchi.
Yeah, kimchi was definitely on point. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Definitely on point. Yeah.
So it's all about fermenting, and like this one product I was telling you about, Aloha Organic. It's pretty cool. Like they ferment fish for 6 months underneath the ground.
This is the gentleman I met, right?
Yeah.
When I was here, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. Even what they were sharing.
It's amazing, and then even things like, just collecting ocean water early morning when the microbes are at the top of the surface.
Oh, nice,
Because once the sun comes up, the microbes go back down. And then like they ferment eggshells. People put like eggshells in the garden. It's for calcium.
Okay.
But it takes a long time for that eggshell to break down to actually become beneficial.
So what they doing?
Well, what they're doing is actually fermenting the eggshell, right?
So they're just putting it in water or putting it in...
Well, yeah, basically water is one of the components, but then it's also sugar, right? Sugar actually breaks down,
Straight up.
Yeah. And then as it ferments and decays, bacteria start, the good bacteria, grows. But anyway, like when they ferment the eggshell, they're actually making what's called water-soluble calcium.
Okay.
And like calcium is a really key component in the plant's ability to be able to uptake any other what they call the micro or macronutrients.
Okay.
And then they also do this really cool thing where they ferment kala, right? Kala is taro, which is
Okay.
it's kind of like the Hawaiian spinach. It's also like a starch. Like a lot of times they used to feed babies, poi. Poi is from the taro plant. And taro kind of grows a root.
Okay.
And that root, they boil it, like kind of like potato, and then they, pound it. You get poi, right? So he's actually a poi pounder. He's a really interesting, guy. He's very involved in, preserving the Hawaiian culture and a lot of techniques. And he's gone around the state poi pounding. But then they teach people, how you can make food and stuff like that.
Sure.
How nourishing it is, and how Hawaiians used to be a main staple for them,
Yeah, no doubt.
So with that, he uses the water to create his bacillus bacteria. Normally people use rice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I have this other product, it's called EM1, which is bacillus bacteria made from rice. Well, his is indigenous and is local, to the environment, and it's made from the taro.
Okay.
Both starches.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. And then there's also he's got one product that he ferments garlic, ginger, turmeric, and licorice.
All together.
And that's like it can help for mold and mildew and also bugs.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then it gives the plant overall plant health. It's kind of like good immune system booster for the plant.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. And then they also ferment fruit. They'll ferment dragon fruit, mountain apple, and ulu, which is breadfruit.
Okay.
They ferment all that. It depends on what's abundant certain time of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What would you this will be the last question. What do you want to share? This is the last. What would you want to say to
the
audience? I mean, now we know green aloha.
Green hands of aloha.
The green hands of aloha.
Yeah. Basically, green hands of love.
Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely have bought some of his gold liquid. Is that what, liquid gold or gold?
What?
your soil.
Oh, the black
black gold.
Well,
yes.
it's not mine, man. I saw it, but it's from Canada. But it's good, though. It's good.
So what would you like to say in the last couple?
Last bit? Well, I'd just like to say this has been a pretty cool experience.
Thank you.
I enjoyed your podcast, and I hope everybody's enjoyed listening to them as much as I've enjoyed, talking with you.
Sure, we're going to do some more. I think I want to get more.
Also, just want to, it's been a good experience. But I don't know, our subject was, cannabis. One thing I guess I'll leave, the masses with is that, if you used it, keep enjoying it. If you haven't, try it.
Indeed. That's good. Good thesis. Good thesis there. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Right,
taking the time. Taking the time.
Yeah.
I know it's been a long time coming too. But I appreciate you coming through. And I'm sure we're going to have some more conversations in the future because I definitely want to. I'll usually keep in touch with my interviewees or whatnot, people I do become friends with and whatnot. So, like I said, I appreciate you. Thank you again, brother.
Right on. Thank you, and aloha to everybody.
Yes, indeed. Peace, and we out of here.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.